beings descending from the heavens, the first footprints on virgin earth. Did divine entities design humanity, or did something far stranger take place in the cradle of civilization? Who were these mysterious figures that dominated ancient texts? Where did they originate? How did they appear in human history with such overwhelming influence? Welcome to Within the Unknown. Today we journey to the deepest origins of human civilization and the foundations of religious history. Together, we will attempt to unravel what might be the most profound question we can ask about ourselves. The year is 1968. Investigative writer Erich von Däniken releases his extraordinary book, Chariots of the Gods. This work opens a new page in popular culture. Däniken presents detailed evidence that independent civilizations across the world somehow share interconnected symbolism, mythology, and architectural achievement. After examining these claims, he creates a definition that will spark debate for decades: the ancient astronaut theory. According to this theory, our planet was visited by extraterrestrial beings long ago. Humanity then made a civilizational leap by constructing structures that seemed impossible for that time period. To support his theory, Däniken gives examples like the Nazca lines in Peru, which only make sense when viewed from the sky. He points to structures like the Egyptian pyramids, impossible to build given the mathematical knowledge of that era. He notes the incredible similarity of creation stories belonging to different civilizations. Then he asks a fundamental question. What if the history we have been told is completely wrong? Based on this theory, researcher Zecharia Sitchin wrote his book, The 12th Planet, in 1976. He shared his famous series, The Earth Chronicles, consisting of 7 books. This causes a more specific definition to enter our lives: the Anunnaki. Now here is an interesting point. In videos you normally come across on the internet, conspiracy theorists convey the claims in these books as if they were all completely proven facts. When the slightest topic of Anunnaki is brought up, everyone acts as if their parents came from Nibiru. They speak as if they were personally there. But believing in the Anunnaki is one thing. Talking about them as if they were your cousins is something else entirely. I will not quote Sitchin's books directly in this video. Why not? Because there is a common problem in his work. Yes, he is a researcher who studied the subject for years and made good connections. But he filled everything in between with his own commentary. Due to modern disinformation, these filled gaps have begun to be told as pure facts. In this video, I will present the big picture by connecting historical texts, epics, and myths from ancient cultures. I will connect those gaps with more tangible facts. We will investigate the issue with an analysis system where concrete connections are more prominent. Our first stop is the land where this story was born. Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. Around 4500 BC, we suddenly encounter the Sumerian civilization in all its glory. This is the first civilization where writing, astronomy, advanced mathematics, and many other sciences began to be used. The first human rights laws, the first hospital and doctor system, the first library and concept of historians, all of them came into our lives with the Sumerians. How could these people suddenly appear on the stage of history in such a developed state? How did these developments suddenly start to be used, starting from nowhere? This is where historians began to ask a critical question. What if humanity had discovered some things long before the Sumerians? What if the Sumerians were just an extension of an earlier civilization? When we examine ancient myths such as Atrahasis, Enuma Elish, and the Epic of Gilgamesh, we encounter a superior group of ruling beings separate from humans. The Anunnaki. The literal meaning is the heavenly royal lineage coming from An and Ki. Pay attention to this detail. In the late 19th century, archaeologists such as Sir Henry Layard traced the remnants of ancient Sumerian cities. One day, a large archaeological site was discovered in areas where the cities of Nippur and Ur once stood. Dozens of statues and thousands of tablets that would challenge all assumptions about human history. It took years for experts to translate these tablets, but when the translations of texts called Enki and Ninma were finally completed, the information that amazed everyone woke from thousands of years of sleep. The creation of man. If you listen to representatives of modern religions, you will constantly hear that human beings are the most beautiful, most sacred of creatures. All living beings are given to our service, they say. But in the tablets of Enki and Ninma, which are thousands of years older than religious books, the situation is presented in a much more sobering way. When the Anunnaki first came to the planet, there was a race one level lower than them in the divine hierarchy, the Ajigi. This subgroup performed services such as construction of Anunnaki temples, opening of canals, infrastructure works, and feeding the Anunnaki. Although ancient civilizations called the Anunnaki gods, they also gave information that they were beings who always needed shelter and nutrition. Remember this detail. The group of beings we are talking about consists of flesh, bones, and living matter. So why are they called gods? You will get the answer shortly. All this busy work becomes too much for the Ajiji, and they rebel against the Anunnaki. We can call it the first strike in world history. Enki, the god of waters, wisdom, and creativity, begins to work to solve this problem. Goddess Ninma helps him in this project. Throughout their experiments, they try to create a living creature capable of serving them. At first, some organs and limbs do not work as desired. The experiments fail. But ultimately, clay was used. This means that something from Earth itself was incorporated. As a result of the balanced mixture of the blood of the gods and other substances, the first human being was created in the image of the gods, a dappa of male gender. Later, these stages of creation are repeated. The population becomes crowded by ensuring that people reproduce with females of their own species. Enki loved Adapa, the first human he created. He adopted him as if he were his own son. He begins to convey everything from his own knowledge to him: agriculture, science, laws, names of things around them. Look, this is an important point. You have heard this story elsewhere too. The concept of the creation of Adam and teaching him the names mentioned in the Koran. And he taught Adam all the names. Then he showed them to the angels. I will go into these topics in more detail later. People who have basic knowledge begin to serve the gods under their sovereignty. They build ziggurats, which are their homes. Later, this concept will turn into concepts called the house of God, such as church, temple, and mosque. The gods are fed with red meat, fruit, vegetables, beer, and wine to keep them satisfied. This event will lead to the emergence of the concept of sacrifice. In short, all the forced labor that the Ajiji once did has now been given to a subspecies of humans who are worker slaves, and this includes working in mines. The mining issue is an extremely important detail. We find information about the Anunnaki's emphasis on gold mines in the Enuma Elish tablets and the Sumerian King's List. Although Sitchin claimed that the Anunnaki used this mineral to repair their atmosphere, this is hypothetical and unproven. But the documented fact is that the Anunnaki really attached great importance to gold. In fact, for thousands of years, gold has always been accepted as a divine metal and a symbol of divine power. The Egyptian pharaohs would cover themselves with gold to show they were divine rulers. This custom is a tradition inherited from the gods in Egyptian mythology. In ancient Egyptian belief, gold was known and respected as a metal of the divine gods. In Greek myths, the gods lived in golden palaces. In Hindu legends, gold was referred to as the metal of the gods. We do not yet know clearly why the Anunnaki attached so much importance to this ore, but great importance has been attached to this mine throughout history. It is useful to pause here. The Anunnaki we are talking about are beings with human behavior patterns, human bodies and needs, rather than mythological heroes. Yes, Sumer and many civilizations worship them as gods, but actually, these are flesh and blood entities. We see this clearly from the detailed explanations in the epics. They fall in love. They have behaviors such as jealousy, hatred, affection. They eat and drink. They are just much more developed and physically larger than humans. Keep this information in mind. Now some might ask, why did these people worship the gods when they were made of flesh and bones? The answer is actually extremely simple. The more ignorant a person is, the more he attributes divine meanings to events he cannot explain. Let me give you a simple example. A very interesting event took place during World War II. An American air base is built in northeast Papua New Guinea. Intensive air cargo supplies begin to be delivered. In the Asmat region near the base, there were tribes that had never had contact with the modern world. While supply boxes were dropped from the air by parachute, sometimes these supplies fell into tribal areas. American soldiers did not touch them to avoid problems. Years after the war ended, researchers encountered an extremely interesting sight. The local people made an exact statue of an American cargo plane from bamboo trees. They began to worship it. According to them, while these god planes flying in the skies were sending them food, after a while when their help ended, the tribe thought the god planes were angry. They started paying respects by making a bamboo statue so that the gods would send them food boxes again. You understand, right? Sometimes the emergence of a religion is that simple. We attribute divine qualities to something we do not understand. We invent appropriate worship, create festivals. Then the truth slips away. Look, these people even worship the plane they only saw in the air. Imagine that you are the first people created and unaware of anything. Here you have extremely developed creatures from outer space. Their power is overwhelming compared to you. What did you expect to happen? Of course, people started to worship them. Epics tell us that over time, people increased in number. Their voices began to grow louder. They became reluctant to serve the gods. The symbolic meaning can be interpreted as people starting to develop and see themselves as divine beings, because afterwards, Enlil becomes extremely angry with their development and disrespect. He orders them not to be warned about the upcoming flood. The decision is made that all humans will die. Then a more obedient human species will be created from scratch. This is an interesting point. The Anunnaki somehow detected that the flood would come. Then we will remake them more obediently, they say. Remember this. You will understand its importance. But Enki is extremely attached to humans and does not want them to perish. He appears in a dream to Ziusudra, one of the people he loves. He tells him to build a ship against the approaching disaster. Ziusudra, who followed Enki's instructions, survived the flood. At the end, his ship landed on a mountain. Then the second life period of gods and humans begins. This story is taken from the Ziusudra epic, which is part of Atrahasis. As a result of studies carried out in 1872, the same story emerges again. Only the names have changed. Enki comes to Utnapishtim's tent to warn about the impending disaster. He gives detailed information about how to build a ship. Utnapishtim builds the ship within 7 days. He hides his family, relatives, and various animals on the ship. After the flood that lasted 6 days and nights, Utnapishtim's ship landed on the mountain. He started to release birds from his ship. Finally, when the last raven did not come back, they realized the flood was over. They went ashore. Meat is cooked in 7 cauldrons as sacrifice to the gods. Seeing them, Enlil goes into rage and asks how did they survive. But Enki intervenes and calms him down, saying, "Punish them for their sins, but do not be so harsh again." They eat together. So what evidence is there to strengthen our understanding of this belief? Do the events described in the Koran, Torah, and Bible take place in these myths from thousands of years ago in exactly the same way? Or are these ancient texts the origin of modern religions? When we look for traces of the Anunnaki, we come across similar myths in all corners of the world, just as described in Sumerian sources. In the Anunnaki hierarchy, we encounter 3 basic god figures: Anu, Enlil, and Enki, who was the leader. In total, the Anunnaki Council consists of 12 gods and goddesses. Similarly, in Egyptian mythology, we see the main god Amun and the characters Osiris and Set. In ancient Greece, the trinity of Kronos, Zeus, and Poseidon. The knowledge of 12 main gods and goddesses living in Olympus, almost exactly the same as Sumerian belief. This concept of 12 gods will later appear in Christianity as the 12 apostles. In Hinduism, this trinity appears as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. In the American continent, this triple god group is Hunab-Ku, Itzamna, and Kukulkan. Likewise, just as this trilogy constantly repeats, the myths related to them also repeat themselves exactly. For example, it is written that the flood event occurred for the same reason in all civilizations, just as the Sumerians mentioned: the degeneration of people, their ceasing to respect the gods. Even the way events happened. People were saved on a ship. Then the New Age started when the god or gods forgave people. These are described the same way wherever you go. The figure of a god coming from the skies who teaches people civilization and leaves saying one day this god will return to save humanity. This story is always the same. The ancient belief in a returning God turned into the belief in the Messiah in celestial religions. Remember again the tribe that worships the plane. People are the same everywhere. They embellish something that has a simple origin. They glorify it more and more. Eventually, they forget what the truth is. This example is a perfect summary of how beliefs evolve. I have made videos about almost all of them before. I will leave them in the description. Be sure to watch them so you can see the big picture. Just remember this: these civilizations are thousands of kilometers apart. They do not have communication with each other. But for some reason, all of them describe these beings exactly the same. Now, I am sure many of you are wondering how the Anunnaki shaped modern culture and religions. I just told you the story of the flood in Sumerian myths. Now let us look at how this story is handled in heavenly religions. The flood is described in the Book of Enoch as follows: people who work with fallen angels and learn science from them make the Creator very angry. Because in the eyes of the Creator, the only purpose of man is to obey. For this reason, the Creator sends a flood to destroy both the Nephilim, who were born as a result of relationships between fallen angels and humans, and those disobedient people. In the Torah, the incident is described as follows: celestial divine beings admire human women. In the Torah, these beings are called Elohim. Elohim is the plural of Eloha. It really means gods, powerful ones, shining ones. It tells us about a community. Yahweh is the main god above them. These Elohim had relations with human daughters. The Nephilim, whom the Torah calls giants, were born. Realizing this, the Lord God regrets creating humans. He sends a flood to destroy them all. Meanwhile, he warns Noah, whose lineage he loves. He tells him to build a ship and keep his family and animals safe. After 7 days, when Noah finished the ship, the flood came. It lasted for 40 days. Finally, Noah's ship lands on a mountain. Noah releases the birds. When they do not return, he realizes the flood is over. He gets off and cooks meat to sacrifice to God. Look, this is interesting. God is pleased when he smells the meat and says, "I will not curse the earth again because of humans." Because the tendencies in the human heart are evil from childhood, I will not destroy all the souls again. Is it not almost exactly the same story as Sumerian texts? Only while Enlil and Enki were having this conversation, here, the two were united under a single God figure. Thus the Torah prevented polytheistic belief. In the Koran, if we gather the story from 7 surahs, it goes like this. God sends Noah as a messenger. After hundreds of years, his people became corrupt. They stopped obeying. God decides to destroy them with a flood. Noah is warned to build a ship. After entering the animals and his family, the water comes. It sweeps away everything, and humanity begins anew. The Quran almost completely removed the symbolic details in previous books. It handled the event in an extremely simple way. But the main motif is exactly the same as the Sumerians. God becoming angry with people and deciding to destroy them. His warning to Noah. Of course, the influence of the Anunnaki on religions does not end only with the flood myth. When we consider creation, Sumerian legends give us the following. In the beginning, there was a vast water called Namu in the universe. Namu is also a conscious being. A huge mountain emerged from this water. His son, Enlil, split the mountain into 2. The top became the sky, bottom became earth. The god of sky and goddess of earth adorn this piece with plants, trees, and water. Then animals are created. Eventually, the gods who will manage them all, the Anunnaki, are created. This expression and symbolism is also mentioned in Genesis. The Spirit of God was moving over the face of the waters. God said there should be a dome in the middle of the waters. The waters would be separated. God built the dome. He separated the water below from the water above. God called the dome the sky, the dry land below the earth. In the rest, it is written that earth is filled with plants and animals, just like in Sumerian texts. In the Quran, it is stated in Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 30. Do they not know that the heavens and earth were joined together and we separated them? That we created all living things from water? Although the Quran deals with these issues quite succinctly, the symbolism and word choices are the same as in both the Torah and Sumerian texts. Let us come to the creation of man. We have learned the details in Sumerian myths. We are a species created as servants to do the work of the Anunnaki beings who came from the sky. It is a recurring detail in many ancient cultures that clay and the blood and essence of gods are used in our structure. Now let us look at the explanation in heavenly religions. Indeed, your Lord is Allah, who created the heavens and earth in 6 days and then ascended to the throne. Pay attention to the word arsh used here. Arsh means the throne where kings sit, throne room. He is the one who created the heavens and earth in 6 days while his throne was on the water. It is the Rahman who created the heavens and earth and everything between them in 6 days, then settled on the throne. Likewise, it is explained in the Torah that creation lasted 6 days. God rested on the seventh day. The Koran and Torah are insistently focused on this six-day concept. Why all this when God commands it to happen? The answer is written in Sumerian texts. When we examine various Sumerian creation tablets, we come across 6 basic creation steps. First, the emergence of order from primitive chaos. The emergence of matter from the universal waters. Second, the creation of gods. 3, separation of heaven and earth. 4, the shaping of the world. 5, the creation of life. 6, the creation of humans. This information is the origin of the 6-day creation concept in heavenly religions. If you read Genesis, you will see that even the elements are almost exactly the same. Let us continue with human creation details. We return to the concept of clay and the knowledge that man was created in the image of the Anunnaki. There is no doubt that we created them from slimy clay. The Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed the breath of life into his face. The man became a living soul. After creating earth, sky, stars, plants, and animals, God said, "Let us make humans in our image according to our likeness. Let him rule over everything on earth." God created man in his own image, created them, male and female. My Lord said to the angels, "I will definitely create a human being from clay. When I complete it and breathe my spirit into it, immediately fall down in prostration to it." How? Is it not surprising? We already know about the Sumerians. According to them, these beings are creatures made of flesh and bones. But in both the Torah and Koran, they not only repeat the information in Sumerian texts in almost the same way, they also describe God as a physical, living creature. Those who defend the ancient astronaut theory claim the biggest reason why the God figure in modern religions has contradictory tendencies similar to human emotions is this: these modern beliefs try to combine the contrasting features of Enki and Enlil under a single roof. You can notice this nuance by reading the texts carefully. Frankly, I do not think that a being with the power to create all existence would destroy a small tribe because they had certain behaviors. If that were the case, there should not be a single particle left of the world. The similarity of basic creator concepts in Abrahamic books with the Anunnaki is not limited to texts like these. When we look at symbolic concepts and worship, we see that religions were influenced by the Sumerians. For example, the sacrifice ritual. While sacrifice was actually an action to feed the gods and keep them happy, it turned into a symbolic ritual after the gods physically left the planet. It evolved into an effort to reach the gods who could no longer communicate directly as before. We find the roots of concepts of place of worship, prayer, and sin and reward in Sumerian belief. People used to make wishes and pray to the Anunnaki in the giant ziggurats where they lived. In order for these prayers to be accepted, they would offer the ruling god the things he loved. The exact meaning of sin and reward is expressed in Sumerian as follows: if people did not meet the needs of gods properly, in a way that pleased them, or did not behave worthily, this would anger the gods. When necessary, they would punish people severely. For example, Enlil once ordered the complete destruction of the city of Ur just because he was angry. We often see similar concepts of destruction in the Koran and Torah. Cities and tribes that do not obey are destroyed by a strange sound from the sky. When we get to etymological roots, things get more interesting. Let us take the names of the 3 greatest Sumerian gods, Anu, Enlil, and Enki. The name Anu, the chief creator, evolved into Anum in Akkadian.
It started to be used as Amun or Amon in Egyptian language. At the end of prayers, it was extended to Amon. According to some etymologists, this action became ingrained in symbolism. It began to be used as Amen in Judaism and subsequently in Christianity, eventually as Amin in Islam. But remember, this is not something historians are 100% sure about. It is a strong theory.
Because if such a similar word has been used the same way for worship for years, we need to think. Let me give you another interesting piece of information. The name Allah used in Islamic culture is actually derived from al-ilah, in English, the God. It means the main God. This word El is also the root of Elohim and Elohah, which refer to God in Hebrew and the Torah. But here a problem arises. As I mentioned, Elohim actually means powerful celestial beings. It is a word that refers to a plural group. Its singular, Elohah, also refers to a single being at the highest level of this group. Both words, whether singular or plural, are actually far from referring to the omnipotent creator as we know it. They are mostly used to describe physical living things. Over time, this word evolved into Elohah in Aramaic, Allahah in Syriac, and Ilahah in Arabic. This is one reason why pagan Arabs called their idols gods. The word Allah was coined to mean the main deity at the top of this hierarchy. But look, the same problem in the Torah exists here. Even though Allah represents a deity at the top of the hierarchy, they did not appear as separate. Al-Ilah also emerged as part of that hierarchy. Although some etymologists argue that the name Allah comes from roots used in idols, others claim the name Allah was created after Islam to refer to the sole creator. This issue is still being discussed. But the overriding fact is that the word Allah was used in the pagan Arab period. The name of the father of Prophet Muhammad is Abdullah, which means slave of Allah. Such names were frequently used in those periods. The names of Allah and idols were often written side by side in many pre-Islamic Arab literary works. It would be beneficial for you to learn the truth about idols. Idols are objects used to symbolize certain deities. Each actually refers to gods in ancient beliefs. The most known example is that the three Kaaba idols, as Lat, Uzza, and Manat, actually have their origins based on the Sumerian goddess, Inanna. That is, to an Anunnaki. When you examine it, like Baal, like Hubal, you see that idols are always rooted in this belief. Of course, they have become much more branched over thousands of years. For this reason, I take care to choose careful definitions when stating the main creator, because according to this approach, Al-Ilah refers to Anunnaki, Anu, the Sumerian chief god according to some etymologists. According to others, it refers to Anunnaki Enlil, the ruler of the world. An interesting topic still being debated. The last item on the similarity of Anunnaki and religious systems is the issue of humans who are obliged to obey, which Enlil emphasized. The same phenomenon constantly repeats in Atrahasis, the Epic of Era, the Enki and Ninmah tablets, and countless other sources. Obey the gods and you will not be punished. These punishments can be individual, or they can be multiplied like Enlil's destruction of Ur, or his destruction of people with a complete flood. This phenomenon manifests as Ma'at in Egyptian belief. This concept means that people obey the gods properly without going beyond boundaries. Thus you will be rewarded with peace in the other world. Otherwise, your soul will be subjected to eternal torment. It is believed in Akkadian culture that people who do not serve Marduk, Enki, and Enlil properly will be thrown into the other world called Aralu, full of difficulties and pain. Those successful in obedience will be sent to Dilmun, where fertile lands and peace prevail. So gradually, the concepts of heaven and hell take shape. You already know what happens in Abrahamic religions. This concept of obedience comes across extremely harshly. In the Koran, it is repeatedly explained how tribes that did not obey God's rules were destroyed. The word Islam means obeying and surrendering. Muslim means someone who obeys and surrenders. This is why people are emphasized in the Quran that the religion in the sight of Allah is Islam. The message that your religion or behavior pattern is to submit and surrender is given clearly. Those who do not comply will be destroyed in this world. They will be subjected to tortures in the afterlife. Let me give examples from Sumerian texts about disobedient groups. Various ancient texts describe Enlil as appointing kings to governments, kings who worshipped him unconditionally. It is said that while he gave them gifts and power in return for obeying his orders, those kings and cities were destroyed when they did not obey. This event appears in very similar narrative in the Quran. If we want to destroy a city, we convey our order to its leaders. They go against the commandment and rebel. They deserve punishment. We will completely destroy them. How many generations have we destroyed after Noah? You are not more valuable than them. We have destroyed many societies where prosperity spoiled them. Here are their houses. After them, except for a very short period, they were uninhabited and turned into ruins. The issue of Anunnaki and their impact on religions is a truly deep relationship. The deeper you investigate, the more you witness that many things you see as established truth begin to crack. Naturally, you start to get confused. But a search is a search. If your goal is to find the truth about the Creator or to unravel the secret of religious history, I think it is a journey you should undertake. Otherwise, you will continue to accept the stories told to you. When you wake from that acceptance one day, it may be too late. We have come to the last part of our journey. Here we will explore how the management approach shaped by the Anunnaki has influenced modern culture. Those who wonder if the Anunnaki legacy remains after thousands of years should take a deep breath. I said that the concept of ruling royal lineage was born in Sumer with the Anunnaki. Sumer literally means land of high kings, land of shining kings. Although texts are not completely clear, they give us interesting information. Period of people who were lower than the Anunnaki, but played a role in government under their absolute rule. Information about this period is very limited. We do not know exactly how far into history it extends. Between 1908 and 1934, a team of archaeologists including Herman Hilprecht, Stephen Langdon, and Leonard William King found extraordinary tablets during excavations in Nippur and Nineveh. These tablets would challenge our concept of human history. The famous Sumerian kings list. The list tells us in detail which king reigned in Sumerian city-states and for how many years. Well, what is so extraordinary? The list dates back nearly to 250,000 years BC. There is a familiar name at the top, Alulim, namely Adapa, who rules the sacred city of Eridu, the first city founded by the Anunnaki on Earth. So Adam. The text reads as follows. After kingship descended from heaven, royalty was in Eridu. In Eridu, Alulim became king. He ruled for 20,800 years. You realize this is important information, right? The tablet gives us detailed information about which city the 10 kings who lived before the flood ruled and for how many thousand years. The tablet also tells that these lineages disappeared with the flood. After the flood, it is mentioned that 23 kings ruled for a total of 24,510 years. Then you gradually see that both the lifespan and period of rule of these kings decrease. Eventually, the events connect to the present day. What is intriguing is the possibility that the flood phenomenon may be much older than we think, or that humanity may have experienced more than one flood in the last 250,000 years. Look at the periods of thousands of years when these semi-divine beings were in power. We do not even know how far back the period before that goes. Some claim this dates back to 400,000 years before the Common Era. Some
Scientific research began to claim that Homo sapiens emerged in this time period.
Coincidence? It could be, but I am not much of a believer in coincidences. In short, the history of humanity is completely different. It goes much further than what is told to us in standard texts. Although we find information proving this every day, detailed research and sharing with society is not very transparent. This concept of management, which is tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of years old, gives rise to the following phenomenon: divine right to rule. Since I will be discussing the post-Anunnaki period, the people I will talk about will be normal humans. The pharaohs covered themselves with gold dust. They served their people, claiming they were of divine descent. Therefore, they had the right to rule. Pay attention to this concept. People who claim to be of divine descent, therefore they consider themselves superior. They act as if they are responsible for ruling. This concept is the biggest reason for the birth of monarchy. The beliefs of these rulers that they come from this Anunnaki lineage are so deeply ingrained that certain practices emerge to preserve the purity of that lineage. A good example is the European kingdoms. As far as shared publicly since 1700, almost all European monarchies, from Spain to England, from Denmark to Russia, are relatives of each other. Marriages always take place between these relatives. For example, British Queen Victoria is a relative of Russian Tsar Nicholas II. The bloodlines are so intertwined. Apart from this, similar marriages were made between powerful families. One of the biggest reasons is the attempt to protect that sacred lineage. In symbolism, this divine lineage is called the blue blood group. They are seen as superior to people symbolized by red blood. The point where blue and red mix means the hybrid, the combination of gods and humans. The Nephilim lineage mentioned in the Torah and Book of Enoch. This subconscious coding is done in hundreds of symbolic concepts. Obey this lineage. They are strong, powerful. The message is that if you go against their system, you will pay the price. Earth is a really strange planet, is it not? We think we know everything, even though we have almost no knowledge about our history, our beliefs, or our origins. However, look what results come from even simple research. I will leave all the sources in the description. Please read and investigate. Make connections. After all, this is a big mystery. There is no way one person can solve this alone. Maybe one of you will solve the connection with religions perfectly. But ultimately, as we share and combine this information, we can piece together the puzzle and solve it together. My purpose in presenting the information and theories in this video is not to say everything you believe is false. Belief is an important concept. I am just sharing the facts or possible facts behind things imposed on us. I present theories so we can look at things outside the conventional framework. Now there is no need for unnecessary confusion. If you believe in a creator above all else, keep believing. You called this force Allah. You called it God. You called it the source. What matters is your intention. Look, Buddhists have not even given a name to this ultimate being. because they believe people cannot truly comprehend it. Look at it more abstractly. For years we have been told that the Creator constantly intervenes. Why would the Creator of existence interfere with the order created? Did this force give us free will for nothing? If constant intervention occurs at every step, then we are dealing with a manager rather than a creator. Which leads you back to the Anunnaki framework. If you pay attention, there has been no documented intervention for thousands of years. If there were, the world would not be like this, right? People still say the same things when the oppressor oppresses the innocent. They just wait. Even the bones of many waiting turn to dust. Nowadays, you watch from the sidelines how oppressors commit atrocities. But no one comes to intervene. Why not? Because you are in an order created with free will. Use your mind. Improve yourself. Unite. Elect moral leaders. Raise generations that care about the future. Develop in science and technology. See if they can crush you then. No excuses. We cannot just sit and wait for winged beings to arrive from the skies. We have been waiting for thousands of years. If you are a believer, look for the real Creator beyond all these symbolic concepts. The topic we discussed was examination of a theory. This is not yet a clearly proven concept. Yes, it applies in many contexts, but ultimately, it is still being researched. Let us say humans were created by the Anunnaki. Let us say these beings are the origin of all religions. Why should this affect your core belief? Do they not have to have a creator too? Does not this universe have to have a source? Focus on the essence. Focus on the source. Seek the truth beyond all these material concepts. This is how genuine understanding is formed. If you become enslaved to a belief full of rigid concepts at the slightest challenge, your entire framework will collapse. You will fall into the void. So continue your search for truth in your own way. After all, those who seek will find. I hope this exploration was useful for those who want to deepen their research on the subject. Many more examples are documented in the sources in the description. I recommend you read them. I will continue to share content about subcategories of this subject. Keep following. In the comments, please write which topics you would like to see in more detail. I will add them to my research list. If you found value in this video, please do not forget to share it. I would also like to thank my members for their support every month. Take care until we meet again next week.